I love my wife, but she often rambles, which drives me crazy. She starts a story, gets distracted by the details, changes the subject, and forgets her original point. Sometimes she gets frustrated with me because she notices that I stop listening after about 10 minutes. What is the best and most polite way to handle this? Story 1. My wife engages in what I refer to as high-speed free association. I generally enjoy listening to her talk, but she is an endless source of conversational topics. A couple of things that help. 1. It is impossible for me to consider requests, project ideas, purchase decisions, or anything significant that is introduced during these conversations. Decisions need their own space. If she mentions it as a sidebar to a story about her coworker's dog's medical problems, she cannot say, "We talked about this already." There is a time and a place, both physically and mentally. I will inform her if it is a bad time for me, and that is acceptable. I actually enjoy it on long car rides. It is like listening to baseball or history podcasts. I can follow along with the part of my mind that isn't focused on driving, and occasionally something interesting occurs. Story 2. My significant other starts doing this when she is exhausted. It helps her, and sometimes I learn something. It is important for me to be there for her, so I keep listening while multitasking. I start doing dishes or whatever and sometimes ask her to repeat when I get lost. Maybe I don't mind because I am a skilled multitasker. From experience, I can say that I prefer someone who is chatty to never hearing a word. Story 3. My ex used to do that, which drove me crazy due to his severe attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. We broke up many years ago, but we ended up being good friends. His brilliant wife has a clever way of using her hands when he is rambling. She pinches all the fingers together on each hand and then slowly brings both hands together. You could interpret it in various ways, but the important part is that she explained how frustrating it is when he loses his train of thought yet continues to dominate the conversation. He agreed to acknowledge the gesture and wrap things up. I guess I'm still a bit annoyed about that. Story 4. After a while, your brain learns to make the right sounds at the right time. Eventually, it becomes a subconscious action you perform. Story 5. Find a comfortable chair and listen. Eventually, she will run out of steam. Then I ask, is there any action I should be taking as a result of any of that? Story 6. Some people talk to themselves as part of their decision-making process. I ask, and if it's not directed toward me, I do something else. Story 7. Just remember, while it may not be important to you, it is important to her. More specifically, her interaction with you matters to her. My wife talks about cleaning supplies, homeschool curriculum, and homemade dog food. She listens to me complain about work, discuss Dungeons and Dragons, and rant about politics. She may not care about those topics, but she appreciates that I am engaging with her, and she enjoys sharing her interests. This is what being in a relationship is about. Enjoy. Story 8. It is challenging to keep up. I do my best to listen and help if she needs input, but often I find myself feeling annoyed and wondering if she really needs to discuss this right now. She also messages me at work with long paragraphs and multiple messages in a row, without giving me a chance to respond. I try to remember the key points and act interested. Otherwise, she gets upset. Story 9. I work until midnight. My wife has a regular job from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. She gets up at 6:30 a.m., while I get up around 9:30 or 10 a.m. We don't see each other much during the week. On Saturday, she wakes up at 6:30 a.m., and I get up 3 hours later. She has had 2 cups of coffee and is eager to talk to me. I get up, grab my coffee, and sit down to enjoy it. She rushes to the table and begins sharing a week's worth of gossip at full speed. I feel like that guy in the chair from the old commercials. My brain isn't even awake yet. I love her so much, and I wouldn't change a thing. Story 10. What do? You accept the situation and smile. Men's brains are like a system of boxes. We take a subject out of the box, examine it, discuss it, put it back in the box, and forget it exists until next time. We even have a box labeled nothing, filled with dust bunnies and television static. Women's brains are a tangle of wires. Everything is connected. Did the electricity bill get paid? If the kids' socks don't dry, they will be late for school and miss the big test, which will affect their grades. Then they can't go to college, and I hope they don't choose Berkeley because that is too far to visit. So, remember to put gas in the car, which I know I did last week because that's when I saw Susan getting coffee. I must tell my husband. Story 11. Yes, that is how women tell stories. Just deal with it, ask questions, and try to pretend it is not boring. Story 12. Most of the things you find annoying can also be found adorable. It's a matter of perspective. Just appreciate her uniqueness for who she is. As someone who has lost a loved one, I can say those are the things I miss the most. Story 13. Try to remember that tomorrow isn't promised, and if you lost her, you would probably do anything to hear her ramble one more time. I think this about my mom, who talks a lot. It helps. Story 14. Oh, thank God. I'm so grateful I'm not the only one. My husband talks about such boring things that I find myself losing the will to live, and then I feel really guilty. Thank you for making me feel a little better. Story 15. Fortunately, my wife and I have a good sense of humor. When she starts to meander, I dramatically put my hand on my forehead and make my eyes widen. We laugh it off and she corrects her course. We both know too many people who struggle to tell a story. Story 16. I get her to stop by singing like this. Story 17. I do this with my partner regularly. Let me share a secret. We do this because you are our favorite people, and we want to tell you everything. We often get distracted by other conversations that seem more important, but we still need to complete the ones we started. Trust me, she does it because she cares about you. To any man reading this, please allow your partner to express herself. It would be heart-wrenching if you say something hurtful while we're in the middle of sharing our stories. Story 18. For some reason, this made me think of how someone starts a paragraph with something like, "Do you ever?" I always find it amusing to simply respond with no when they're finally done. Story 19. If I had one, I would just listen. I tend to ramble when I am distracted. I enjoy it when people are engaged, even if it is just passively. It feels somewhat wrong to want to disengage like that. Story 20. Think about the fact that she could be gone right now, and you could be sitting at the kitchen table alone, realizing you'll never hear her share one of her stories ever again. Story 21. Imagine actively listening to your partner. When she starts to wander, remind her where she left off. When she gets lost in the details, respond with, "It's okay if you didn't remember the specifics. What happened next?" If she's wandering in conversation, she may have inattentive attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. She's looking for validation, and it's important to show understanding. Remember, there are people who would deeply value the companionship you have, so try not to take it for granted. Story 22. There is no magic pill. Just listen and try to keep it all in your head until it makes sense. I bet there was a time when you enjoyed listening to her talk. Story 23. Sit down and give her your full attention. Put away your phone and pause the TV show. Stop the music. Look at her and wait for her to get to her point. Either she realizes she is wasting your attention, or you will remember what she said. Your body language will convey the message. Story 24. I find it enjoyable summarizing what she is saying. Sometimes I do this in my head, and other times, after she spends 15 minutes telling me something, I recount the summary to her. I can convey the same 15-minute story in just 2 minutes, although I can't capture the drama completely. Story 25. Communicate your reality alongside her expectations. Share how she can help you listen more effectively and how you can assist her in communicating in more engaging ways. I am quiet. My soul is quiet. If my husband isn't talking to me, he's on the phone. He was extremely frustrated with me in the early years because I have inattentive attention deficit hyperactivity disorder and he thinks out loud, mapping out his thoughts verbally. I would never be able to meet his expectations if he wanted me to listen all the time. He understands that I smile and nod with empty eyes half the time due to our discussions on this matter. It's not that I don't care. He just talks a lot. I never want him to feel bad or apologize for it. I've communicated that it helps if he doesn't take long pauses, tries to change his tone during important parts, provides a summary at the end, and remains patient when I need him to repeat things. Story 26. As a woman who has been diagnosed with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder since I was about 12, I used to ramble to my husband, as I had no one else to talk to. Then one day he got fed up and told me he really doesn't care about what I'm talking about or what happened at work, and that my conversations go nowhere. It's been about 6 years since then. Now we walk around in silence with all the noise in my head, still with no one to talk to, and it's very lonely. It hasn't been great for my mental health. I know it's annoying, but don't make her feel alone or like it's not okay to talk to you. Story 27. Try your best to listen. Do you have children? Perhaps you are the only source of adult conversation for the day. Story 28. Maybe she is trying to get you to listen. So listen. Acknowledge her feelings. Do not disqualify her feelings. Do not try to fix her problems. Do not disrespect her by discounting what she feels. Friends listen to each other. She may like to hear from you as well. So share your thoughts and passions with her. Sometimes you have to let her pour out her heart. Sometimes she solves her problems by expressing them in words. It helps her to express her emotions and feelings. She needs you to listen and understand her. When she is done, give her a warm hug and kiss her. Tell her, "Sweetheart, I love you." Something as simple as that is more important to her than anything else. It lets her know that you value what she has to say. If you don't listen to her, someday she may turn to someone who will. That person will hear her complain about you. Slowly, she will draw closer to that person and eventually turn away from you. There may come a day when she separates herself from you. You will be blindsided. But from her perspective, it all started when you tuned her out of your life. Story 29. Sit back and let her talk for a bit. I do this with my husband. I say, "Hey, listen for 5 minutes." Can be amusing to hear silly things. I do get distracted, but I want 5 minutes of your time to express myself. Story 30. Be honest with her. My wife knows there are times when I am not listening. I have a one-track mind, and whatever I am focusing on has my full attention. If she needs my attention and does not have it, she makes it clear that I need to listen to her. Story 31. I say, "Babe, I really can't talk to you right now. To be fair, we've been together for a long time, and she knows I don't mean it negatively. It just means we'll talk about it later." Story 32. Mine does it when I'm trapped in the car with him. If I suggest that he is being prolonged, he gets all pouty and incredibly brief. Perhaps we should try the wrap-it-up music like they use at award shows. Story 33. I had to read that out to my wife. She is exactly like that as well. She has attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, which probably explains it. Story 34. I smile and listen. If I need to do something at the same time, I get up, give her a hug and a kiss and say, "Keep going, I'm still listening." Then go do what needs to be done. Story 35. I do that thing with my hand, like, "Let's get on with it," or say "squirrel," to remind her that the attention deficit hyperactivity disorder is kicking in. Story 36. My wife will start a story by dangling an interesting attention getter. However, the longer she talks, the further away from that point she gets. Did you hear about the neighbor's dog? You know, our neighbors down the street in the greenhouse, the one that used to be beige when the Joneses owned it. The Joneses moved to Texas, I think, because their daughter lives down there and just had twins. Twins must run in their family because Mr. Jones was also a twin. I'm pretty sure his brother still lives in town. What about the dog? Story 37. You just have to learn that this is how she communicates. My wife doesn't ramble or change the subject, but she does provide every little detail possible. I may think these details are unnecessary, but they are important to her and how she shares information. It can be challenging not to feel tired of that over time. My storytelling, like that of many men, tends to be direct and focused on the main point without the details I consider unimportant. My wife has expressed that this is annoying and that she wants the details. I have realized that she needs to share all these details. It matters to her, and since I love my wife and enjoy looking at her, I choose to listen. Story 38. She sounds like she has ADHD. It's just a different style of communicating. Just enjoy and listen. However, I will be honest. She deserves better than someone who gets annoyed listening to her. Story 39. I have no sympathy. You knew what you were getting into. Everyone thinks it's the cute quirks, but it's the most annoying things your partner does. You have to ask yourself, can I live with that for the rest of my life? This includes their annoying laugh, their ramblings, and yes, their family. Story 40. Sadly, this is often something that women do, unlike most men. Most men tend to get straight to the point, while women, on the other hand, often elaborate on everything and anything. Meanwhile, you may find yourself wondering what they are talking about because they lost you a few topics ago. You will learn not to listen too closely and to insert responses like yes, okay, or occasionally, while nodding at the same time. Trust me, it is a learned behavior, but it will save you hours of frustration, and you will be happier as well. I don't know what else to say other than good luck. Story 41. I play a game with myself, trying to answer moral questions between the lines and debate in my head on how I will interact with whoever is the topic of the day. Thankfully, my wife understands when she is pushing a point too far, and the topic eventually comes to a close. Story 42. Interrupt her with a clarifying question, but then say never mind. She might stop going down rabbit holes and complete her initial thought. I learned that one from Frasier. Story 43. Turn it into a game. Keep track of the initial story, listen for when she is derailing, and respond with the keyword that will get her back on track. She might get upset if you interrupt her, but just tell her you were listening and want to hear what happened. Story 44. If she does it at home, most of the time I try to listen and engage with her. However, if it goes on for about 30 minutes or I just got home, I tend to glance at my phone as a distraction. Otherwise, when we spend time together, the communication is good, and we both learn something about each other. On the phone, though, there are at least 9 occurrences of, I have to go, I love you, be safe, before we finally agree on a stopping point. Story 45. Oh, really? She said, what? What can you really do? We have been together since 2016, and sometimes my wife just needs to vent. Some of the things she says are pretty wild, too. It's like my own television show about people's lives and predicaments. Story 46. They all ramble. All I hear is noise in one ear and out the other. What did you say, dear? Huh? Story 47. I enjoy listening to her talk about anything and everything. It is one of the best experiences. I might teasingly prompt her to get to the point after a few minutes, but it's not meant to be unkind. Story 48. Women are great communicators in general, and as a result, babbling can be a byproduct. When 3 of them enter a place to meet up, whether for lunch, coffee, or drinks, if they haven't seen each other for a while, it turns into a lively celebration. Story 49. My ex started doing this, and after a certain point, I realized that I found it quite upsetting. It felt to me like it wasn't really important whether I was there or not, whether it was a conversation or a podcast. If I added input, I felt like I was interrupting, and if I stayed completely silent, she didn't even notice. Story 50. My fiancée talks a lot, and I appreciate it as a quiet individual. She knows she tends to go on and doesn't expect me to focus on everything she says. I listen much like people do while enjoying podcasts. I pay enough attention to understand the context, but not every detail. Usually, I'm cooking or occupied with another task, so this works well for me. Story 51. Help keep track of the conversation, stay on topic, and express how much it helps you follow along. People can learn anything and everything, and it encourages them. I learned to track my conversations because of an annoying boyfriend. Story 52. My husband does this, and occasionally I interrupt and ask, now, where were we going with this story? Story 53. I love it when she talks about her books. I can't remember when she says, we talked about this, in relation to the decision-making. I need to establish a boundary regarding that. Story 54. My wife understands what she is doing. Sometimes I politely ask, is the plane landing anytime soon? She even says this when she is talking about something else. Story 55. Typically, I just reflect for a while until there's a lull. Then I apologize or say, "Yes, dear." This approach usually covers my bases. Story 56. I try to listen as effectively as possible while I mentally address whatever is currently troubling me. Story 57. My personal favorite is when she interrupts me to go on a 2-hour-long monologue. I try to say something, and she scolds me for interrupting. Story 58. When my girlfriend would ramble, I initially wanted to fix her problems and offer advice. However, I learned that sometimes she just likes to express herself. So now, I patiently listen and nod, and only provide advice when she asks for it. Story 59. Back when I had a significant other, every time she did that, it reminded me why I fell in love with her in the first place. There was so much passion about it, and while I don't know much about biochemistry, I listened to her anyway because I knew it made her happy. It's been years, and she still occasionally pops into my dreams like that, making my day both better and worse at the same time. Story 60. My wife is diagnosed with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, and she told me when we first started dating to let her know when she is rambling and to ask her what her original point was. This approach works really well. Story 61. My mom does this. There's constant chatter and a constant need for engagement. I don't know how my dad handles it. Story 62. My girlfriend does this too, and I understand it. I'm her only real social contact. I know when I get home she will have story after story for me, so we sit on the couch, I put my phone down, and I let her talk. I used to try to solve her problems, but I could see that it annoyed her. I'm a fixer. If there's something I can do to resolve an issue, I will try to do it. So I had to train myself to just sit there, listen, and let her express herself. Some days it frustrates me because I am socializing at work all day, and when I get home, I don't feel like having that interaction. Sometimes I just want to focus on my projects, but if it helps her mental health, I'm not going to say no. We've been together for 10 years now, and I want everything to be good. Story 63. I'm invested until she starts over. She circles back around, and I feel myself fading away. Story 64. Just look at her. Gently hold her shoulders to get her attention and say, "Honey, you have been distracted. Can you finish your story?" She might not even realize she is doing this, so it requires patience. My mom is like this, and I tell her to help her stay focused. There might be some attention deficit hyperactivity disorder involved. Story 65. My wife and I discussed it. She needs to express her feelings, but I let her know that I cannot be interested in people and situations I don't know. She informed me that if she needs a problem solved, she will specifically ask. Often, I am only partially attentive, and she knows that. I love being there for her, but I am not mentally equipped to handle the sheer number of emotional interactions she has in a day. I have a low emotional bandwidth and spend it carefully. Took some honest and courageous conversations. I am willing to be her sounding board, but the volume of information is too much for me to truly absorb. If she wants a thoughtful answer to solve something, she usually leads with that. It only took a couple of decades. Story 66. Listen for a while. Try to guide the conversation. If it doesn't work, things tend to move on. Story 67. In general, I don't mind it. However, there are two situations when it becomes problematic. First, when I am busy with something important like fixing the heater, I tell her to please wait until I am done. Second, when I am distracted due to life events, I let her know that I can't focus on the details today. She can either share the information, but I may lose focus, or she can provide a brief summary. I am also fully aware that depending on her mood, this may still annoy her, but it is usually understood. Story 68. My wife does this daily. Usually, I pay half attention, but occasionally, when I'm feeling bold, I stop her every few minutes and say, "What did you say? You know you have to speak up. I have tinnitus." After a few times, she'll wrap it up. Story 69. It sounds like she has attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. My ex-wife was the same and was later diagnosed with it. My girlfriend exhibits similar traits and has also been diagnosed. Having said that, yes, it's annoying. Story 70. This is her trying to spend quality time with you. You know how she says you never spend time together or you never do anything together? or you are always on your phone or watching sports. Read on because this is the time that nullifies those comments. While it's hard for us men to listen for more than 10 minutes because we often switch off due to our preference for efficient information transfer, she instinctively knows this. If you can listen for 20 minutes, she will feel really loved and cared for. She will feel like you are spending a lot of time together and feel connected to you. It's challenging to do, but try active listening. Yes, it will prolong the conversation, but restate what she said back to her in your own words until she agrees that you understand. Make it a game to try and understand what she is saying as much as you can. In the beginning, when you start listening, she may bring up problems she has with you. This is a security test to see if you are genuinely trying to spend time with her. During this time, do not congratulate yourself or tell her you don't do the things she complains about. Just actively listen. Eventually, you both will improve at this, but if you want a partner who doesn't nag, then embrace the conversation. Story 71. Wow, that's so interesting. Please tell me more. I've never thought of that before. If you consider that point, then it leads to another valuable insight. You're so insightful. Story 72. How are your grunts and other dad noises? Wife, I'm talking to you. You, are you listening? Wow. It seems you have plenty of opportunities to master this art form. Story 73. I told my wife that if she rambles, I will continue to pretend to listen, and that is the best it can be. If she weren't my wife and I didn't love and respect her, I would say, can you please stop talking? Otherwise, I will go away and spend time with someone else. She laughed at first when we met and I said that. Then she realized I was serious. Thankfully, she spoke to all three of my sisters, who laughed it off and said, he might stop listening, but he will be there through thick and thin and move mountains when it counts. Story 74. 10 minutes? You're a champion. My wife comes in with her ramblings that include government and school jargon, and I am out cold. Even Animal from the Muppets would nod off within 30 seconds. Story 75. Sweetheart, I love you, and you need to understand that my advanced brain cannot switch tasks the way yours can. Story 76. The longer you are together, the more you will develop a wife filter, which allows you to pick up on key points. Takes time, my friend. Story 77. I just hit her with, if only you talked as much as you act, which instantly earns me a well-deserved slap, but it stops the conversation. Story 78. Ask her to give you the summary first. I don't know, my partner is lovely and we equally talk a lot, but I have this exact issue with my mom. She calls me and then says, this is important, only to go off on how she went to the store that morning, the neighbor said something, and other unimportant details. So I ask her for the summary of the urgent stuff first, then let her talk. It becomes background noise, and she doesn't mind because she doesn't care about my responses. I just chime in with an or here and there. Story 79. This is me. I know I drive my wife crazy, but she tolerates it. Especially when we are walking, I tend to overshare my thoughts. Story 80. My girlfriend does the same thing. It drives me mad. She picks a story and starts it, but then jumps to something else and back again, making it very hard to follow. The worst part is when she talks about Tom and his experiences. Just as she gets to the point where Tom says something important, she veers off and instead says something completely random. This confuses me, and I end up thinking that what she said was actually what Tom said. Then these random topics come up in her quizzes, and she expects me to know the whole story behind both narratives, even though she's only shared half of each. Story 81. I informed my wife that she needs to stick to the same narrative. She follows the same pattern. The story deviates every time. Story 82. Oh, really? Wow, that's crazy. Story 83. I think about something else for a while. When I come to, she is always still talking. My current girlfriend cannot tell a story to save her life. There are constant digressions. She doesn't remember the details of anything and can't recall names. I enjoy talking to her, but I just can't devote 20 minutes to a story that goes nowhere. Story 84. Seriously, this is verbal waterboarding. It is abusive. A conversation is one thing, but being the victim of an endless monologue is totally not okay. Story 85. I was sitting on the couch last night watching television. Out of nowhere, my wife said, "Are you even listening to me?" I thought, wow, that's a weird way to start a conversation. Honestly, when my wife rambles, I usually maintain eye contact and start solving random math problems in my head. I use her facial cues to mimic shock, surprise, frustration, disbelief, joy, and so on. As long as she doesn't bring the topic up again later, I'm good. If she does, then I have to jump into fake it mode. Story 86. Get used to it because as she gets older, she will talk more frequently. I personally zone out after a while but pretend I'm listening, or sometimes just focus on the words so that if she asks, I can repeat them back to her verbatim. However, as women age, they tend to talk a lot. Some may recognize this and cut back on their conversations, while others are unaware of it. Story 87. You tell her to shorten it if you're not interested. Let her know you need the summary version. The truth is, you should have done this before she became your girlfriend. There's no reason for you to endure this discomfort. If you're not listening and are zoned out, change the subject. Don't suffer in silence. You don't want to deal with this for the rest of your life. Story 88. It's so boring to listen to, isn't it? I pretend to be interested up to a point. If it goes on for too long, I find an excuse to end the conversation. Women often have different interests than men. The details of their feelings and relationships are endlessly fascinating to them, but they can seem uninteresting to men. If you want to reverse this experience, start talking to her about sports or technology and watch her eyes glaze over. We tend to find different things interesting. This is partly socialized, but it is mostly biologically innate. Story 89. Have you tried dating educated individuals? Educated individuals tend to communicate clearly and manage their emotions effectively. If you weren't aware, I have some rather disappointing news to share with you. I personally avoid uneducated women as much as possible. I have found success in my personal life, but there are frequent challenges in the office and in public. Story 90. I stare directly at them and then suddenly say, "Who cares?" Then I get assaulted. Story 91. My wife knows she has about 30 seconds to get to the point or my attention shifts, and sometimes I leave the room. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.